Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, WAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all, those jumbo and massive cut cowboy and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, even those prime Wagyu burgers and Angus burgers will be the best you've ever had. Again, they're all USDA Prime, not choice. They're all USDA Prime. Great stuff. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates. All of our independents from coast to coast. Also, everybody streaming on social media, pick your favorite platform. We're there. Also, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable affiliates on television. Also, Hotel TV in over 600,000 rooms from coast to coast, gaining about 4 million impressions per hour, more than any other show that we know of, and probably that you know of as well. All right, how about a little controversy right from the top? How about Travis Kelce? Right, big tight end from the Kansas City Chiefs. How about this guy? Travis Kelce stars in yet one of those Pfizer commercials backing the non-FDA approved experimental drug injections. That's ridiculous. And of course, it's the old two things at once. The Chiefs player repeated in the ad as he promotes getting both shots in one sitting. Oh yeah, you'll be hearing a lot of boos in this one, folks. So Travis Kelce, of course, stars in a Pfizer commercial backing both the non-FDA approved experimental drug injections, also known as that blasted COVID shot, and plus the new flu vaccine. Hell, I thought the flu had taken vacation. I don't really know. Anyway, two things at once. Kansas City Chiefs player repeated in the ad, as I said, and Kelce is seen in a series of quick shots doing the two things at once, grilling while mowing, for example, mowing lawn, working out while conducting an interview, and even hosting a show while operating a hot air balloon, right? Walking and chewing gum. And of course, his mom, Donna Kelce, also makes a cameo at the end of the commercial. Now, the ad comes at a time when the alleged cases of both COVID and the flu are expected to climb as the winter months approach. Yes. Okay, gee, how convenient is that? Of course, they predicted it with their magic 8-ball, right? Wrong! An election year is upon us, and mail-in ballots are coming in bags, probably by mules, to a ballot counting office near you, as we've seen before, likely. And of course, you cannot look and see what they're doing. Now, can you? In those rooms when they're counting those alleged mail-ins and whatnot. What about all the undocumented aliens crossing the borders illegally? Yes, we'll get back to that one with the alleged flu and whatever illnesses they may or may not have. Whatever that means, not really sure, but it is a disaster. The fact is, those non-FDA approved experimental drug injections are coming to a theater near you, and guys like Travis Kelce are actually pushing those in the first place. How ridiculous is that? That's right, a chorus of boos comes with that, and that's for all of our friends listening in, even our good friend AD over in sunny Southern California. We'll get back to him in just a little bit. Nonetheless, allegedly, Oh, yeah. Allegedly, these shots are actually coming at a very convenient time. And even Joe Biden got a alleged updated shot, booster, whatever you call it, at his annual flu shot. Yet I wonder if that was a placebo or saline solution or the actual kill shot that they're actually giving in red states, as we've seen and or heard, as reported by multiple outlets. We'll get back to that one too. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce posted the commercial to his Instagram, writing, quote, "With my schedule, saving time is key. The CDC says you can get this season's updated COVID-19 shot when you get your flu shot if you're due for both. That's why I got 2 shots in one stop," close quote. And the chorus of boos continue. But he's facing some backlash over the ad. People are not happy with his attempt to influence the American public, especially since he plays in a football state that's motto is the show me state. That's right. They're not feeling this one at all. In fact, negative comments flooded by Kelce's previous post since comments on the ad were blocked. Why is that? And one of the many Instagram users are infuriated as one said, quote, "Sold his soul to Big Pharma and he can't believe I used to think he was a cool dude," close quote. Another one said, "Yes, you have single-handedly killed people with that ad of yours," close quote. Now, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention recommends that all people 6 months and older stay up to date on the non-FDA approved experimental drug injections, that's the alleged COVID shot, and receive a seasonal flu shot on top of it. I'll just put a little salt on the wound on that one. Why don't they recommend those? Better yet, why are they recommending those? Let's think about that one. Are they taking placebos? That would be of course, the people at the CDC and all those people recommending them. Are they taking the placebos or the saline shots, or are they actually not even treated? What about all the guinea pigs out there? Let's ask the over 1,095,766 reports on VAERS that were actually reported as ill or dead, according to VAERS, from 2020 to 2023. Never mind 19 and 24, etc. And those reports used to have about 20 data sets. Interestingly, it seems that the CDC decided to remove many of those vital stats and only state whether it was Moderna or Pfizer that were tied to each one of those incidents. And previously, reports of illness, timeliness, location, male, female, age, race, dosage, symptoms, etc. were all excluded. Yet, somehow they magically disappeared. I wonder why that is. Whose agenda is that? With the CDC, okay? But they want everybody to take these blasted shots. Maybe it's time to bring Dr. Peter McCullough back onto the Sports Circus and talk about it. What do you think, folks? I think Dr. Peter McCullough might make another appearance here on the Sports Circus. Of course, he's already been here, and let's face it, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Now, since the CDC is a federal agency, where does the liability lie in promoting those non-FDA approved experimental drug injections? How about a parallel? How about a parallel with the FTX crypto influencers? How about that one? And the lawsuits against those influencers and people paid for commercials and stuff like that. So is Travis Kelce immune to the liability as an influencer? I think that's what we should be asking ourselves. Now, don't you think it stands to reason? That seems plausible to me because as I see it, there might be some liability. So, reality, folks, I want to know, since the CDC is a federal agency, where does the liability lie in promoting those non-FDA approved experimental drug injections? What about the FTX crypto influencers and the lawsuits against them? Is Kelce immune to liability as an influencer? Now, according to Entrepreneur, the crash, of course, of that FTX exposed an $8 billion hole in FTX's accounts, leaving investors and customers scrambling to recoup their funds. Therefore, the SEC charged Trot Frowder, Justin Sun, celebrities Lindsay Lohan, Jake Paul, and other for violation. That's in New York. Of course, the Securities Exchange Commission charged Lindsay Lohan and Jake Paul and several other celebrities with failing to disclose that they were paid to promote crypto. Now, according to Bloomberg, many celebrities were involved, lost money. Tom Brady, Gisele Bundchen, Kevin O'Leary, Robert Kraft, etc., Sam Bankman, Shaquille O'Neal, Udonis Haslem, David Ortiz, Trevor Lawrence, Shohei Ohtani, Larry David, and a whole bunch of others, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, with all that said, what is Travis Kelce's exposure to promoting and influencing those non-FDA experimental drug injections? Oh, and by the way, what about his mother's liability? And of course, she is an influencer as well. Why? Because that's Travis's mom. Anybody tied to Travis also is a social media influencer. Whether she's on social media or not, she's influencing the public. So the question is, because this is a federal agency with the CDC, is Travis Kelce immune? Basically doing a PSA or public service announcement, is he going to receive immunity because he is speaking and influencing those people that are susceptible to the messages by professional athletes? To me, this sounds like a big dumpster fire, kind of like the administration that's in there today with Sloppy Joe and everybody else. I got to tell you, folks, this one's going to get messy. Stick around for just a few minutes when we go on commercial break back here on the Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You could get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, this segment is brought to you by the American Business Trust Company, helping companies with strategy, sales and marketing, capital resources, and establishing companies with physical locations or on the internet. You decide. For more information, contact the American Business Trust Company at info@abtrustco.com. That's info@abtrustco.com. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, welcome in everybody else that may be listening in Southern California on NBC News, CNBC Financial, our friends over there on KCAA, as well as right here in Las Vegas, KJPT, Jackpot Radio, 90.1 FM, 90.1 Under the Sun, and KVGK. Of course, big hello to our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, Auburn, Alabama, home of the Atlanta Braves, WAUD, and even down in Southwest Florida, WBGY. That covers that beautiful Naples and Marco Island area, plus a whole bunch of points in between. Thanks for joining us also on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable, plus hotel television in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. All right. So now that we had the Travis Kelce disaster, we don't know where the liability stands. And folks, the thing that really drives me crazy, you think about that whole FTX thing. Tom Brady had 1.1 million shares, lost $45 million. Of course, I believe the numbers are drastically understated. His wife previously, Gisele Bündchen, had 680,000 shares at over 25 million reported. I guess that's what they bought him for. I don't know. Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank had 142,000 shares, overall $1 million valuation per, and of course was paid out $25 million as a spokesman. Robert Kraft had 630,000 shares of FTX, lost himself a whole bunch of money, over $10 million. And the guy from Enron, how about that one? I mean, this is kind of the most ironic one of all of them. And Enron, which was one of those gigantic natural gas scams or whatever the hell was, those energy scams. That guy, he lost a little bit of money. How about somewhere around $34 million, right? A little punch in the head for that.
Show me the money!
Anthony Scaramucci lost his. Steph Curry paid out. He was paid $10 million as an influencer, by the way, too. So again, thinking about the liability and the millions and millions of people that were affected by those non-FDA approved experimental drug injections. Of course, they want to say, oh, it's safe to take them. Really? Well, they're not FDA approved. Now, are they? And where does the liability fall with that? Well, it's the federal government apparently saying that there is no liability somewhere in the grand scheme of things, which makes zero sense. But somehow Travis Kelce is going to escape this. And the crazy thing is he lives in he plays for a team in the Show Me State of all places. The Show Me State. How you like that one? That's unbelievable. Anyway, so let's talk about a little bit of Show Me. And how about Deion Primetime Sanders? How about that guy? How about that guy? How about the honeymoon is over for Neon Deion and his Colorado Buffaloes with that ridiculous blowout loss to Oregon? Of course, he even said it was a good old-fashioned butt kicking, and I say it was a good old-fashioned ass kicking, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it was like the David and Goliath story from the opening kickoff, a bloodbath of a game, and like an FBS versus an FCS game, not a conference game of 3-0 Titanic football programs. Nah, this was as bad as you'll ever see from a top 25 game. In fact, most of the country loves seeing good old Deion get his ass branded with a big fat O on top of it. Gotta like that. How'd that one? How you like wearing that one, kid? Welcome to big time football. It's only going to get worse. Nonetheless, let the numbers do the talking. Colorado's offense didn't crack the 100-yard mark until the fourth quarter. And, of course, they didn't complete a play of more than 12 yards until 16 minutes were left in the game in the first place and allowed 7 sacks on top of it. And, of course, the Oregon Ducks scored a touchdown on 6 of their first 7 possessions, averaged a whopping 7.2 yards per snap, and pulled many of their starters, yes, with an entire quarter to play. And we'll give them a round of applause, too. In fact, it was bad enough to produce a remarkable stat. Now, here's one you don't see very often. At halftime, Colorado had a grand total of 23 yards. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Oregon had 22 first downs. And the laughter continues. Of course, this seems personal, but yet for the other guy. In fact, in a pregame speech aired on ABC, Oregon's coach Dan Lanning fired up his team by targeting the other coaches' glitz and glamour, saying, quote, "Today we talk with our pads. The Cinderella story is over. They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. There's a difference. This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood. It's played on the grass," close quotes. In fact, by the time he arrived for the post-game news conference, guess who had already learned about that? Deion Sanders. And he said, quote, "I got messages about it," close quote. And of course, Deion blew it off, saying that Lanning can take the shots because he won. God bless him, he's a great coach. And of course, that's the old tongue-in-cheek thing. And then in typical Deion Sanders fashion, he glared through his dark sunglasses to deliver a message to all of college football. Quote, "You better get me right now. This is the worst we're going to be." Right. All right, that's what he says. So be it. But they were bad. In fact, in 34 games as a college head coach, Deion has never lost in such a blowout. It was the worst beating of a Sanders coach team since 2016 when he led the Dallas area high school AAA academy to a 42 loss in the playoffs. Oh, yeah. In fact, Lanning even piled it on, seemingly determined, embarrassed by the Buffaloes and their high-flying coach. He attempted 2-point conversions in the first half, a fake punt, successful, of course, and went for 2 fourth-down tries in the third quarter while up 35 points. Gotta love that. In fact, at the half, it was Oregon cruising to a 35-0 lead. Oregon coach said to the national audience, quote, "I hope everyone that's been watching Colorado every week is still watching." In fact, even Puddles, the Oregon costume mascot, he even wet on Deion Sanders. In fact, he entered the stadium wearing what? A white cowboy hat and sunglasses. And that's okay. Of course, Deion said after the game, he said, well, teams are trying to beat me. They're not trying to beat our team. And that's really what this is. And it is what it is. And I signed up for it. Yes, sir. And of course, the smack and the interviews and the tweets, all that mayhem continues. And the funny thing about that, folks, is when you think about what Deion projects to the media, you think about what he brings to the table. He brings a media circus, but what he doesn't bring is championship caliber football. No, he doesn't bring that. But here's the bad news for Deion. Guess what? Next week, it's going to be a little bit hot over in Boulder, Colorado. Why? Look, he said his team was playing like hot garbage, evaluating the coaches, and he complained about the blocking in front of his kid, Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, whatever. You know, next week he's going to get a look at a real Heisman Trophy winner, and that'd be Caleb Williams, as the big bad USC Trojans come to town. And in my opinion, they're going to brand Deion's other cheek with a big S and a big C right on his backside. As a matter of fact, it's going to be ugly, and I think SC is going to drop 50 points on him. So I'll tell you what, folks, let's listen to the SC Marching Band, because you're going to hear a lot of this song next Saturday. Yes! I gotta like this, folks. I'm gonna let this play. You know why? Just because we can. That would be Fight Out by by the University of Southern California marching band. How you liking that? This one's for you, Deion. This is a personal request from everybody in the USC nation across America. Because guess what? Colorado is not America's team. I don't think so. The Buffalo is cool, I'll give them that. But what's better than the White Stallion rumbling across the field? I've never seen anything better than that in college football. All the college football greats, all those Heisman winners, all those guys that had the Heisman stolen from them, in my opinion, a guy by the name of Anthony Davis, the only 5-time national champion in NCAA history, certainly had one of those Heismans stolen from him by somebody from Ohio State with the big 0 right at the 50-yard line. It's not an O, it's a 0. In my opinion, that's the collective IQ of the Ohio State football team. Somehow they managed to beat Notre Dame over the weekend, which frankly I was rooting for an earthquake because I don't like either of the two. But SC is going to really do a number on good old Colorado. Kind of a little cheer section here for the next 15 seconds or so. So I hope you're enjoying this song and the USC marching band with Fight On and the balance of the music they have to offer. Because guess what? You're going to hear a lot of it, folks. Don't go anywhere else. Want to come here at the circus? Back in just a few minutes. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you're tired of the fake news and tired of all the left-wing BS and agendas out there, if you want to do your right part to clean out the swamps and hit the lefties where it hurts, their pocketbook, we all know the president and his cronies hired thousands more IRS employees and agents. Now that's not very American. There's a way to fight back. Fellow conservatives out there, call American Tax Relief. They can help you pay less to the IRS. Don't you give a penny more to spend to the left-wing agendas. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes or haven't filed your taxes in years, call my friends at American Tax Relief. They'll give you a 100% free introduction to their program, and trust me, they're on the right side of your freedom. Pay the IRS less. Call now.
800-958-2157. 800-958-2157. That's 800-958-2157. Paid for by the Tax Doctor.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hey, this is Josie Scott from Josie Scott's Saliva, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are found on all podcast platforms and, of course, in our archives on radio and television. And, of course, make sure you check out the partners. One of our partners is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Yes! Of course, they've been with us since the very beginning. In my opinion, the best school here in Southern Nevada. And that goes for that alleged big university. That is right here in town as well, if you know what I mean, with those questionable academics. Anyway, all right, so how about the top 25? So we talked about Colorado and their ass whooping. Of course, how'd that feel? Getting big O branded on their backside. Gotta like that one. Next week, it's going to be a big SC branded on their other cheek, in my opinion. And, of course, Colorado falls out of, yes, the top 25. After that complete dismantling by Oregon. And it's going to get worse because they have to play SC. So coming in, of course, in the top 25, and it's Georgia. With all, well, actually not with all 55. They get 55 of the first place votes, 1,562 votes at 4-0. Previously number one, and they remain number one. Michigan gets 1,445 votes. Of course, Georgia is comfortably ahead at 4-0. And Michigan at 4-0, previously ranked number two. Still our number two. Texas, with a nice win, gets a couple of votes. And, of course, they are 14-01, 44 points behind Michigan in the rankings. Texas comes in number three, previous number three. Ohio State jumps 2 slots from number 6 to number 4 with that nice win over Notre Dame. And, of course, Florida State with a very, very, very questionable win. Somehow only dropped 1 spot. They have a last-second win over Clemson. They remain 4-0. They go to 4-0. They remain undefeated, but they drop from number 4 to number 5. Penn State jumps from number 7 to number 6 with their win. They're 4-0. Washington goes from number 8 to number 7 with their win. USC drops 3 slots with their not so impressive win over Arizona State. But, of course, they're going to play Colorado, so chances are they're going to get well this week. Now, Oregon, with their destruction of Colorado, go from number 10 only to number 9. They are 4-0. Utah, with a nice win over a very, very tough team, go from 11 to ranked number 10. Notre Dame drops 2 slots. That would be Notre Dame. Drops 2 slots to number 11 and now 3-1. Alabama goes from number 13 to number 12 at 3-1 as well. LSU drops 1 slot, and at 3-1 they go from 12 to 13. Oklahoma jumps 2 slots from 16 to 14. They remain undefeated. North Carolina jumps 3 slots. Better yet, they jump 2 slots from 17 to 15. Washington State jumps 5 slots with a nice win over a very difficult opponent in Oregon State. Duke rolls. And next week, they've got Notre Dame. And, of course, they go up 1 slot from 18 to 17. The Miami Hurricanes go up 2 slots from number 20 to number 18. They remain undefeated as well at 4-0. Number 19, Oregon State, dropped 5 slots from 14 to 19 with that difficult loss to Washington State over in Pullman. Ole Miss moved from 15th down to 20th with their loss to Alabama. Tennessee jumps 2 slots from 23rd to 21st with their win. They're at 3-1. Florida moves up 3 slots to number 22 at 3-1, and unranked previously, Missouri at 23, Kansas at 24, and the Fresno State Bulldogs somehow make the top 25 at number 25. Others receiving votes are Kansas State, they get 57 votes. Kentucky with 41. Colorado drops all the way out of the rankings with only 32 votes. Louisville, 32 votes. UCLA, 28. Maryland, 20. TCU with 17. Tulane at 11. Syracuse and Wisconsin both at 6. Air Force at 6. Clemson gets 5 votes, and Texas A&M gets 5 votes as well. As a matter of fact, with all those games coming up, there's some really interesting games the next week's schedule. We look at some of those and we say, how are we going to fare in these picks? You know, Sal the bookmaker from Place Your Bet is really good at placing these picks or placing these games in the right slots against the line. Starting out, of course, with the early game with Temple and Tulsa. That's the game that nobody wants to touch. Temple with a good defense, seemingly year in and year out. They're playing on the road against Tulsa, and we probably want to stay away from that one because that's that 3.5 line, and we're going to stay away because also Tulsa just took it on the chin, and they probably will be out for blood. And Temple, you never know what you're going to get there. Moving on past Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky, we're going to move to the matchup with Louisville and NC State. That one, essentially, Louisville on a neutral field is a 6-point favorite, but the home field is worth 3 in football. So really, the line is 3 at a bunch of casinos, whether you're, I don't know, at MGM, I think it's 3 at 3.5 at MGM, and then some of the other ones, I don't know, whatever they are, whether it's what they are. Anyway, the line looks like it's 3.5 across the board. We're going to stay away from that one. Louisiana Tech, Utah, we're going to stay away from that. Utah and Oregon State, this is an intriguing matchup. Utah goes to Oregon State, and that is going to be a very, very good game. As a matter of fact, Utah, they are +3. Oregon, of course, -3. So basically what the odds makers are saying, this is a picket game. On a neutral field, anybody could win. And even though Utah is a very, very sound team, we're going to give this one to Oregon State. Oregon State is sound on both sides of the ball. And remember, Oregon State also has that former Clemson quarterback. I can't really say his name. I think it's a Polynesian name. But anyway, I don't want to butcher his name. But this guy's good. He's big. He's tough to bring down. And Oregon State plays a very good brand of defense. You know, the crazy thing, folks, this is the last year for the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 has about 5 quality schools in there, and we'll say USC, of course, we'll say Oregon State, we'll say Utah, we'll say Washington, we'll say Oregon. These are all quality programs from the football side. Hell, even Washington State, you've got 6 schools, and even UCLA is fairly solid. So there are really 7 solid schools. This is probably the best the Pac-12 has been in a very long time. That's too bad it's all going by the wayside. Moving on, we have Cincinnati and BYU, and that is a 2.5-point line for the home team Cougars. We're going to stay away from that one. Louisiana visits Minnesota. Minnesota should rumble on this one. 12.5 is the line. They probably should win by 22.5. Utah State visits Connecticut. Utah State with that vaunted defense, they should really do a number on UConn. In fact, moving into the SEC, Florida visits Kentucky. Florida and Kentucky essentially at a picket in a neutral field, but Kentucky gets the nod at -2.5. We're going to go with the Gators on that one. Penn State -26 at Northwestern. And you know, Northwestern might pull themselves an upset there. You never know what's going to happen in that one. And of course, we have SC. USC is 21.5 to 22 at Colorado and Deion. Now, Deion's club will probably beat the spread, but they'll probably lose maybe 60 to 40 or something like that. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't see any defense being played in that one. UAB and Tulane, stay away from that one, in my opinion. Same thing with South Alabama and James Madison. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Arkansas somehow is a 6.5-point dog at home, and they're a very good home team underdog. Clemson, -7 on the road at Syracuse. Syracuse is looking pretty good with those 7 points. It's 6.5 in some places, but with 7, Syracuse is looking real good. Buffalo and Akron, watch out for Buffalo. Akron, the Zips, that's their name for a reason. I don't think they'll win a game all year. In my opinion, a meaningful game, if anything. I like Buffalo with the 2.5. Eastern Michigan and Central, I would stay away from that one. Same thing with Virginia and Boston College. and Miami and Kent State. Arizona State coming off a pretty tough loss to USC visits Cal. That 12 points is looking pretty damn good. Georgia visits Auburn. Auburn is plus 15.5. The line has moved just a touch. Auburn's looking pretty good with 15.5 points, folks. And, of course, we are on WAUD over in Auburn, Alabama. And, of course, War Eagle is going to get themselves possibly, I can't say an upset, but I think they'll cover. Moving on, Rutgers with an easy win over Wagner. Purdue is at home against Illinois. Purdue right now is rebuilding. They're not looking real good. I think they got the wrong hire there. Michigan, look for a blowout at Nebraska, maintaining their slot in the rankings. They're 17.5 to 18 points. Michigan probably with a big, big win. Baylor visits UCF in a next-year conference game. UCF might actually get themselves a win straight up there. And, of course, Bowling Green goes to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech in a big win there. Arkansas State, UMass, Kansas, and Texas. Texas with a nice matchup against an underrated Kansas team. Watch out, Kansas might cover the 17. Indiana goes to Maryland. Maryland should roll in that one. And Houston visits Lubbock. Watch out for the Red Raiders in this one. Even though it's an interstate game, you never know. This conference matchup next year is going to look real good. I think the Red Raiders get themselves a nice win there. Moving on real quick to a couple of these other games. Looking at Boise State and Memphis, Boise State should get themselves a win on the road. UNLV will probably find themselves in the winner's circle against Hawaii. Vanderbilt and the points look pretty good in an interstate or a border rivalry. And, of course, LSU -3 at Ole Miss. Oregon with an easy win against Stanford. And, of course, we have one other one here in Oklahoma, big over Iowa State. And that's going to do it for the segment. Besides, Duke should roll over Notre Dame. Yes, you heard it here first. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. High, pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you're going to get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize, there's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over to first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. One ball, one strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said, I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. One ball, two strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about our congressman being crooked, here's a pitch foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products who don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back for it. Root for the White Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be.
Hello, Jack McDowell here, Black Jack McDowell, and you're watching the Sports Circus, which is totally cool. So you have a great time watching. Have some fun.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, and also our partners. Of course, we've said lots of that in the past, and we're going to keep saying it because we're loyal to our partners. And in case you haven't listened to some of our previous shows, by the way, we're going to jump around a little bit because we can. Some of these shows, of course, feature Super Bowl champions, World Series champions, NHL Stanley Cup champions, NBA champions, golfing champions from the PGA and the Senior Tour, the Legends Tour. We have all kinds of champions in here. Even we feature lots of business people, lots of Grammy Award winning musicians and Academy Award winning actors and whatnot. There's all kinds of great talent that comes in on the show. Presidential candidates, for Christ's sakes. All kinds of interesting people have been on the show, and they continue for years and years, a couple of thousand episodes thereabouts. We've been doing this for quite some time. People love the show here in prime time. And again, this started out as just a radio show on a Friday afternoon as just an idea. And then the guy that I started the show with, he kind of went AWOL, which was actually the best thing that ever happened. And then I said, you know what? I think I can do this. And this was even before I started off on ESPN as just an analyst for another show for a year and a half. And, the show has grown significantly from just one radio station to a bunch of radio stations and TV stations and all the social media platforms. And, of course, we've had a lot of help along the way. We have some great correspondents. Black Jack McDowell, you just heard about. Darrell Evans, the great Darrell Evans, World Series champion as well. Of course, Jack McDowell being a Cy Young Award winner. And on we go, from our football analyst to whether it's college football, pro football, five-time national champion, Anthony Davis from the University of Southern California, to, we had Big Theo Ratliff with us, Bronco Billy Wright as a boxing analyst, Chris Bird, WBC champion, IBF champion, Jock Jones from the baseball world as well, and Colin Frazier, three-time Stanley Cup champion, as our hockey correspondent. Great appearances by Paul Dvorsky, the NHL lead for officiating over in the War Room in Toronto. Dave Jackson, our friend Dave Jackson, trying to see if he'll work with us as the ESPN rules analyst. Dave's a great guy. Just so many people have been on the show. And if you go to the sportscircus.com's website and look at the list on the featured guest list, these are people that they come back frequently because they like the show, they like to speak freely. We used to do a show where people could call in. Once in a while, we open the phone lines up, and I have to say that each time we've opened the phone lines up, it sort of took away from the flow of the show. Not many people are willing to tell you why they don't open the phone lines, but I'll tell you right now, we used to open the phone lines up on a regular basis. We did it for a few years. And what happens is when somebody calls in, we always have to tell them, turn your radio down so then they can not have the echo and the reverb right through their microphone when they're coming in through the sound feed. But the problem is it breaks the momentum of the show. And when it breaks the momentum of the show, it's hard to keep track of the show, and you tend to lose the audience with that. So you see, a lot of times, if you listen to the recorded shows, you'll actually get the full show and its content without any interruptions. Just like right now, there will be no interruptions. I make mistakes in it only because I'm human and I make mistakes, and I don't fix them in the mix. We're not here to fix them in the mix, but we give you the real, just like in the first couple, 3 segments. Look, if people don't like what happened with Travis Kelce, we don't like it, so we're going to voice it. And we don't like the way Deion Sanders projects to the media and to the general public. I think it is an abomination to the universities And remember, it's college football. Right. And they are student athletes, not athlete students. They are student athletes. They're students first. And so the big cat show and the glitz and the glamour and the mayhem, look, the way that people present themselves to the media, unfortunately, is a big fat mess sometimes. And Deion with a good old-fashioned ass whooping, and he even said it, yeah, I got my butt kicked. All right, that's great, and good for him for owning that. Problem is, the general public is going to see something like that and say, well, geez, what do we do when it comes to another ass whooping for Deion? Do we give up on him? No, don't give up on him, because Deion's been a winner at every level. And we like Deion. We do like Deion. We just don't like his antics. So that said, we think about what's going on in Major League Baseball with bat flips and all this other crap and juiced baseballs, and as we see it. And look, it's very hard to understand how the juicing goes away, but the home runs pick up. Think about this. I tell you this as a former pitcher. I look at this and say, wait a minute. How are we seeing so many home runs? It doesn't make sense. Where hitting 30 home runs was a big deal once upon a time. It was a really big deal. Now it seems like, I don't know, a quarter of the league has 30 home runs. And then you look at some of the stats that go along with it, with the slugging percentages and all this other crap and the stolen bases. Now the bases are bigger. It's almost like the game has been dumbed down. And as a former baseball player, I scratch my head and say, wait a minute, what are they doing to the game of baseball? I do like the fact that the Baltimore Orioles are in first place and they're going to win that division. I mean, frankly, I don't know. I mean, look, Tampa Bay is right behind them, 2.5 games behind, but they only have a handful of games remaining. I just don't think that Tampa has enough to get past Baltimore. Either way, they're both in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Minnesota in a very weak Central Division, which the White Sox should have run away with. But again, they had the wrong hire. White Sox are going to lose 100 games this year, which is awful. And Kansas City is right there with them. Detroit is much improved. They've won 73 games so far. They're going to probably win close to 76 games. Detroit's a pretty good club on the upswing. Cleveland with a very disappointing 74 wins. This is a very good club with a lot of pieces. Unfortunately, those guys are literally 9 games under 500, and they're not going to play 500 ball. The best they can do is 81 and 83, 2 games under. So unfortunately for Cleveland, who had a lot of promise, those guys with a lot of really good pieces are looking up at the Minnesota Twins, which is not a very good team. Now, the Texas Rangers, a very interesting team. Prior to the season, during spring training, I was one of those guys, and good old Sal the bookmaker, placed a bet from placeyourbet.vegas. Check it out, folks, placeyourbet.vegas. Placed a bet on the Texas Rangers to win the World Series. I got them at plus 5,000. Plus 5,000. And the current odds for the Texas Rangers are plus 900. So Sal the bookmaker did the right thing there. The Houston Astros, the defending champions, are plus 1,100. The Rangers with a better chance of winning the World Series than, of course, the champion Houston Astros. And don't forget, Seattle is right there in the mix too, and they're battling Houston basically for that last spot. And that in itself is going to be a really, really good battle. As a matter of fact, we look at the wild card standings as they are right now. It is Tampa with a locked-in position. So really, it's the last 2 spots in the wild card with the Toronto Blue Jays. Those guys are plus 1.5 up. Houston is occupying the last spot currently. That is literally up to the minute. And as we stand right now, as I refresh the browser, that is up to the minute. And they are, yes, they are actually plus, wait, let me see this, folks. You can bear with me here. They are, wild card, they are a game and a half up on the Seattle Mariners. And it's really Seattle and Houston, and I guess it would probably be Toronto. Those 3 really fighting it out, because if you look at these teams, Toronto with 87 wins currently, Houston with 86, Seattle with 84. But you look at the loss column, that's the most telling. Seattle has the most losses at 72 losses, and that in itself means, I mean, look, you have to win games. 87 with Toronto, they have the most wins out of those teams. And so it looks like Toronto is in the driver's seat there at, well, let's face it, we'll just call them a couple of games ahead of the Seattle Mariners. And so over in the National League, this is another thing. Now, the National League's wild card, we look at, we have the Philadelphia Phillies, which are 5 games up into the wild card. They're going to end up winning that, at least one of those spots. But now you got Arizona and the Cubs. They are each tied with the same record, but the tiebreaker belongs to Arizona. So that's your number 2 and 3. But here's something interesting. Miami is 1 game behind in the 4th slot. Cincinnati is in the 5th slot at 2.5 games back. They're not out of it just yet. But Miami also holds the tiebreaker head-to-head against the Cubs. So if the Cubs and Miami and Arizona all finish with the same record for the 2 and 3 slots, it would be Arizona and Miami finishing in the playoffs, so the Cubs on the outside looking in, losing the tiebreaker in head-to-head battles. And that's when those games in the regular season really mean a lot. Now, the Cincinnati Reds also have the tiebreaker too, but the problem against the Cubs, the problem is that Cincinnati, only 3 games over 500, sit 2.5 back. So they have to go on a tear for the end of the season. They've played 157 games. With 5 games left, the Cincinnati Reds are 2.5 back, and it's very unlikely that those 5 games are going to materialize because they have 77 games in the loss column, whereas Arizona, Chicago have 74 losses, Miami with 75. So Cincinnati's already lost 2 extra games than the other teams. So really, you think about what Arizona and the Cubs and Miami, actually Arizona and the Cubs, each have lost 74 games. So you take 162 and subtract 74. Those 2 teams could actually match up with the same amount of victories and losses. So Cincinnati outside, very likely not going to make it. San Francisco, they're done. San Diego, done. Pittsburgh, forget it. But the races have been very interesting. The wild card, I'm not wild about the idea of 3 wild card teams, but it looks like you've got literally 4 teams fighting for 2 slots in the National League, and then you've got 3 teams fighting for 2 slots in the American League. So with Seattle 1.5 back, they've played, they're 84 and 72. They've got 156 games. Seattle's got 6 games left to make up that game and a half situation, 6.5 game and a half deficit to Houston. As a matter of fact, I think they have a bunch of games left against Houston as well. They probably have another 3 or 4 games against them. So who knows what's going to happen there. But these games are really shaping up to be interesting. And I wouldn't say that there's any surprises. I do believe that Baltimore going away, Texas going away, it very well could be Texas representing the American League in the World Series. But can Texas beat the teams in the National League? Could they beat Atlanta? Probably not. Atlanta looks like the best team in baseball, which in my opinion, they probably are. They'll probably beat the Dodgers. They'll probably beat the Brewers. Atlanta probably wins the World Series against anybody from the American League. And of course, then we'll be on WAUD, the home of the world champion Atlanta Braves. Nice round of applause for them. And thanks for joining us here on the Sports Circus. We'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. So until then, so long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.